Welcome to the Pulse of ATG. It's Knees Over Toes Guy, joined by the ATG mentor, Keegan Smith. Keegan, how's it going?
I'm awesome, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I've actually got a 20-minute timer today. So much has happened in the last week. We decided that we want to just do this format for ATG members and coaches, and you'll be able to scan through this on a YouTube video and see anything new we're talking about. I'll jump right into it. Clint Greenshields. I'm sure this has been done many times, but it's not something you see in gyms. And I'm talking about piriformis stretch. Piriformis stretch is something that we know we want to have mobile piriformis, but the effort to try to get there can, for some people, put a lot of strain outside the knee. What's your experience with that? And why don't you try to explain to the audience, what we're talking about in terms of a solution to that outer knee pain. It regresses and it makes it active. And on YouTube, we'll put the visual.
Yeah, so if the hip doesn't rotate, then the rotation has to come from somewhere. And so people can find that they're kind of maxing out the ankle range and they've maxed out the hip range. And whatever the weakest link in the chain is the one that's going to kind of be impacted the most. And I think Matt Fraser actually spoke about tearing his, like, at the CrossFit game, stretching it. Like he spoke about it on Joe Rogan. So it's a place where you can get a lot of leverage, so you set this stretch up for the piriformis and you can get a lot of leverage. And so the weakest part of that can be those sort of connective tissue structures of the knee, which really, they're not designed to have a lot of force in that direction. Like, unless you're a jiu-jitsu guy, I guess you're never really getting those kind of lateral squashing forces on the knee. So I think this,
not to mention the way the knee is structured, you can, by getting good at these other knee exercises, that is what adds the stability, honestly, that people then don't have a problem with the piriformis stretch. But when you have any kind of weakness in your actual knee exercises, then the piriformis stretch can be tough. And the tough thing about that is when that piriformis is tight, it can be giving IT issues. It can be giving outer knee pain. You see what I mean? So it's like, what the F? Like, how do I get out of the outer knee pain? And I have a tight piriformis. And I think it has a very large variance in society based on how many of us as kids kept doing those little, sitting with the legs cross-legged and stuff. I was not one of those guys. I was one of the people that probably starting at 12 never fully bent my knees or sat in a butterfly or any kind of cross-legged position. And so I remember trying to open up that piriformis and constantly having outer knee pain. And really, by giving up on it, being gentle with it, and of course then just getting bulletproof knees, now I do have a great piriformis. However, it can be improved. So describe, how an incline bench allows us to hit that.
Yeah, so the incline bench just allows you to have a controlled gradient and progressively, increase it. I think it also increases the you can put the weight against the thigh, so the force is going through the femur rather than going through those lateral ligaments of the knee. So the leverage is in the right place, and
exactly.
You can grade the force that goes into it. I think that's, is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, the first huge part is that your knee is nice and firmly pressed against something. So now the torque isn't on the knee. We're trying to get the torque more on the hip. And so now the torque isn't on the knee. Also, for people really tight in the piriformis, trying to do an honest pigeon pose is so far out of the question that means we're now straining against some kind of imperfect form. And there are flexibility experts out there who will navigate this in many ways. I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm just saying that an incline bench allows you to pin the knee, now put the force where we want it into the piriformis, and you get a really nice active position. You're even getting stretch into those hip flexors, which we want in a really good pigeon pose. So it's really active, and you really get to scale it. I was just doing it yesterday with a 7-foot tall, he was on the Golden State Warriors, NBA champion, Festus Ezeli. And his knees are a scary sight. No offense. There's so many surgeries on them. It's really scary. And he told me that he thinks, that he's going to have more. Now, a single session on zero, and he has a totally different perspective. And he was able to work all these muscles. And he was even able, as the very last step, to stretch his piriformis and actually feel it in the right place for the first time. So we've got that out of the way. The incline bench. I snapped a quick visual at the gym to show this. And now let's segue into some other important things, which is being able to troubleshoot any step of zero, and then also being able to have advanced levels of any step of zero. I think zero is the most important program in the world because of the fact that it's zero and it rebuilds from the ground up. So I don't know another rebuild from the ground up that's actually powerful. So I'm back on my 0 week. Let's go over that. What's your experience with zero that you're seeing with the coaches? And then we got to cover the pulse of ATG too, which is on fire with the coaches. But tell me about the coaches.
Yeah.
What does zero mean, for a coach?
It's hard to, there's so many things here that come up. Coaches need to be like, coaches are humbled by zero and they realize, oh shit, like I've worked really hard in the gym, but there's still a bunch of stuff that I'm not very good at. And they have to work hard to get to the standards, on zero. And that really changes their outlook on training, because a bunch of stuff that looks like, it's body weight training for lower body, and no one, in the strength world really,
from the ankle up.
Yeah. It's no one's doing that, but it's like, no one thinks of training the lower body with body weight. Like it's kind of like doing, like aerobics or something like that. Like it's like doing a Jane Fonda workout. If you think you're not adding weights, it's like almost emasculine, or it's not strength training. And
now all of a sudden you're going
paradigm
to failure, and you're tapping out to failure in muscles you haven't trained.
Exactly.
What I'm seeing with coaches, I'm seeing right off the bat that coaches themselves are getting insane wins on their own chronic pains that they've had for a long time, that the coaches themselves are being able to go back into jujitsu or this or that, or do their sports. We're also seeing coaches being able to work with elderly clients much better, to be able to work with kids much better, to be able to take pro athletes with confidence, and even to be able to train entire teams. I mean, that's a huge side of it. Is I could take, oh yeah, you got a whole basketball team, you got zero equipment, I can make your team more athletic than anyone else in your league. I mean, that's pretty powerful. And you're starting from the ground up. So every rep, I mean, if you got an important phone call halfway through the workout and you had to leave, you just got healthier because you're building from the ground up. So in terms of troubleshooting, if we start right off the bat with the tibialis, the big ones for me this week are, you can actually use PVC poles to actually assist those tibialis raises, believe it or not. Now at the top level, I'm having a hell of a fun time doing them single-legged. So I'm setting up in the app where for advanced, Monday, do it normal. Wednesday, use a slant board. That now makes it much harder on the tibialis. And then Friday, single-legged. So with the same exact formula, without altering anything, I can help Granny by using PVC pipes, or by lowering her footwear, by getting into something like a zero shoe. If a slant board makes it that much harder, then the higher the heel of your shoe, the tougher the tibialis raise. So some people who think they can't do them, they either need PVC pipes and or to lower the shoe. And I even realized that for step 1 of zero, you could use a tibialis bar, meaning we think, oh, if you can walk, you can improve. Maybe if you can't even walk, maybe you could walk if you started with the tibialis bar, because it scales less than zero. Let's talk about the pulse of ATG with the ATG for coaches. It's on fire.
It is. Yeah. It's cool to just, there's never been an opportunity like this to connect with coaches all around the world, to get your questions answered. And
we're using Telegram.
They're getting multiple perspectives on everything. Yeah, we were using WhatsApp, but we, maxed out the group. But there's just, so much energy and willingness to share. And I think after Clint Greenshields' idea was kind of accepted and went forward, you saw like a burst of ideas coming from everybody sharing their, the tweaks that they're using and the creativity.
It's unbelievable. And it would be nice to have some really, a forum with 10, 20 different The problem is that when we just have one chat, even though it seems like so much comes in there, what's incredible is that you can dive in with a specific issue that you're trying to solve. And within seconds, you have like expert coaches from around the world helping you with answers. I have a 56-year-old client coming off of this or that, you know what I mean? And within seconds, you have coaches trying to help you. It's unbelievable. And so it's not that I hadn't seen or even done the incline bench piriformis before, but I had definitely completely forgotten about it. And I've been struggling with, and maybe it's 1 out of 100 people struggles with it, but I want zero. I want 0 out of 100. I have a fundamental belief that there is a solution for everything. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy to find but I have a fundamental belief that if you don't stop digging, you will find a solution. So I threw it right into the chat. how do we overcome this problem of the outer knee for people with tight piriformis and painful outer knee? And boom, Clint Greenshield solved it. And it immediately clicked, and I knew. And then literally within 24 hours, I was using that with the former NBA champion for him to get a piriformis stretch, probably for the first time in his life. And it's not even that that's the most important step, but it is part of the equation. So this concept of being able to regress any step of zero, this concept of being able to progress any step of zero, this is a game changer. This is a big eye opener for me. I'll be being in LA. I train celebrities. I basically try to schedule a celebrity every other week, and it's not like I'm scheduling who's coolest. I'm scheduling whose knees are the most fucked up, to be quite frank with you, because I feel that within me, because I see them struggling and they think they're going for more knee surgeries. And I know that they don't have to. And I know that their quality of life could be so much better. So I was able to get Festus Ezeli into every single step of zero, winning on every single step, no pain, unbelievable burns in all the targeted muscles. I will say one thing: when you're working with these extreme cases who've had a lot of surgeries and stuff, now they're feeling muscles burn that they don't really have much muscle there. The burn in the muscles is going to be excruciating. They don't have a lot of, muscle tissue there usually. You have to remind them to be grateful as heck in that moment. So the whole workout, I was reminding him, no joint pain, feeling the muscle, stay on it, be grateful. Now's the time you get to use your mental toughness literally to change your longevity. Usually we use our mental toughness to destroy our bodies. I don't know about you, but I used if I wasn't so mentally tough, I wouldn't have had a partially artificial kneecap by the time I was 18. You probably wouldn't have had all your Achilles issues and this and that if you weren't honestly trying to outwork and trying so hard on your body. Now it's the opposite. When you build from the top down, harder you work, more destroyed you get. So just to recap, to make this clear. So Telegram is basically any of the ATG for coaches can get on there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's an opportunity for the coaches. They don't have to be on there. Some people look at it and they're like, it's too much for me today.
There was 61 messages when I woke up this morning, and I can't fricking wait. And I go through and I answer every single one, because if you go after it individually, your solutions are going to potentially die out when you die out. You know what I mean? So for me, it's not about me. It's about how good can these coaches get. Every one of those coaches now can have massive impacts and carry on, ATG. So it doesn't wind up 100 years from now, people looking at those pictures of me doing an ATG split squat, So
100%. That's a good thing to bring up. Something there from the Pulse, like guys have been posting like some of the stuff from 100 years ago and forgotten techniques, and looking at Tommy Kono, and there's stuff from way back. And that's the cool thing about the Pulse as well. It goes in all different directions. But yeah, this is a chance to build something that can last. And I think it has already gone way beyond, you and me, and like this, all these coaches are owning it, and they're all looking to refine it as well and fit it to the exact circumstances that they're in. Like some of the coaches are focused on shoulders, like they're focused on throwing. They don't like the knees are not even the big thing, but they're still in there, and they're extrapolating, and they're sharing ideas, and that's the way it's going to make the broadest impact. And there's a few Olympians that I'm chatting to on Instagram, and they're sending me messages, and I'm watching their thing going on, and I'm just thinking about where that's going to be, 4 years from now, 8 years from now, 12 years from now. Is there going to be an athlete insane who hasn't been influenced by ATG? I had
5. I have 5 in this year's Olympics.
Yeah, that's it's fun to think about how far so many coaches, they have these big dreams, but now they can actually see that their peers are doing it, and they can ask that guy something, and they know that person. They've got a link with them. And I think that's a huge thing for a beginner coach, like it was for you and I with Charles and with other coaches that we connected with. Those conversations and those connections, they just encourage you to level up. And I think that we're just getting that every day, rather than, that once every few months or year or whatever, when you can afford to go to a seminar and travel and all that stuff,
Yeah. We're very fortunate to be in this age where it's so rapid. I have a fundamental belief that the speed of service is like the number one thing that holds back businesses and holds back, growth. So I think that speed of service is huge. Even with my coaches, we're down to on average, 2-hour response time. So I don't know anyone doing form coaching under 24 hours for our price, let alone we're down to 2 hours. And I'm trying to see, how to get it even faster, So But now that's why, yes, the pulse of ATG with ATG for coaches on Telegram, it's not for everyone. But the point is that it's speeding results. And when you need answer and you need other brainstorming, you need ideas and you need to push things forward, you get answers so fast from other coaches. So it's really, that's the value of it. What people are learning in ATG for coaches, the zero dense standards framework with ATG, these are the roadmaps, but nothing replaces that personal touch, And so with the modern age, we're able to get that personal touch. And of course, we want to do in-person seminars, and that I think will add, honestly, I think that'll add its own unique thing. And when we look back on life, what are we looking back on? It's some of these really deep, meaningful connections and moments, but it's pretty cool right now to even be able to get that online. So to me, that's a huge, if I'm looking at, this week in ATG, the realization, that we can troubleshoot any step of zero, and you can take an athlete of any level and at their level, put them through zero in the right way. And that by doing zero, you are doing the right thing. It's not that dense and standards aren't good, but it's like, there's so much to be gained by getting that immediate, just rebuilding from the ground up without any stops or barriers, because they can now go do this on their own because it requires such minimal equipment. So I just finished shooting the first progress guide. I started with step 1 tibialis. So that means I showed all the ways to troubleshoot tibialis and all the ways to progress tibialis. And now, tomorrow I'm going to start on the next one, FHL calf raise. So I'm going to be doing a progress guide for every one of these steps, but still to be able to dive in there, we're seeing success stories every day. That even helps you. A client says, wow, I've had a knee replacement. I don't know if I can do zero. Boom. We have a win in there from 2 days ago of a 72-year-old with both knees replaced, countless physiotherapy, and 5 weeks of zero has already changed her life. You know what I mean? So that community.
She stopped being aware of her knees all day, right? Like she's for the first time in a long time, she's not actually having to think about her knees wherever she goes, whenever she stands up. Like,
yep, it's unbelievable. So, yeah. So if we compare, to medical approaches to knees versus natural approaches to knees, there's simply a gross imbalance. So ATG is very new to the scene. You haven't walked into the gym and seen people doing these things unless they were on ATG, quite frankly. So having that insanely fast, cohesive unit of coaches, I think is a big deal, because you don't have that social justification of everything that we're doing, And so together, we're making what that reality is. So I've never been more excited to go train pro athletes and stuff and people of any age, knowing that the next people I'm training, both of them have had their knees replaced, super, celebrities in their fields. And, that's a pretty rough, existence when you don't even know how to train your knees, and I get to dive in there in a single session and show them how to train their knees and get real, relief and gains at whatever their level is from the first session. So I'm just freaking stoked.
We know what it's like. We know what it's like as a coach or an athlete to know that you don't really know, like to know that you're kind of guessing at the solution and to hope that this is going to work. And even though it hurts, like maybe it's going to work in the long run, like this guy said it works, so let's keep hammering those glutes or posterior chain or whatever the story is. Now, what you're taking into a session, but then coaches hearing you say that, and, they don't have as much experience yet, but they can leverage that confidence, and then they're getting that feedback in their own body. They're getting that feedback. And it's, it's just such a unique time for,
it's a unique
the coaches that are getting into this. They can just shorten that journey so much, where they can feed off that confidence. Like, you're going into sessions more confident than ever. Like, you're noticing a difference in your confidence level from like 2 years ago when you were already getting phenomenal results.
Can't even compare it.
Yeah. It's crazy. And, I had the same thing. Like, I reached out to an athlete because I was frustrated. He had like 6 hamstring tears. Was going to cost him millions of dollars. And I just said, like, what are you doing? What's going on here? And, are you willing to have a conversation? I'd never spoken to him before. And I just said, do you want some help with this? You're willing to have a conversation. And we had a conversation, and he wasn't doing a bunch of the things that are in the ATG system. And I said, like, sign up and I'll show you, some of the things that you can do. So he put his $50 in there, and I said, like, do this, this, this.
That's all anyone ever pays.
Exactly.
My usual rates and your coaching usual rates. I answer every coach's question there. There's not like an extra price for it,
Yeah. No. Yeah. So, and he's had I wouldn't have had that confidence before. And he's back playing. He's doing phenomenally well. All right, we're coming to the end here.
And I did the same thing for an MLB player's hamstring recently. Messaged me. I knew what to do. Boom.
Yeah.
Handled it. And he said that the team was not doing any of that and not getting results on it. All right. We are out 20 minutes. Now I'm going to send Drew, any new visuals. So this is not going to have a ton of visuals like a normal one, just any new ones. That way you can just scan through the YouTube and see anything new that you might need to see. Keegan, thank you. I'm stoked for what we're going to accomplish in the next week.
Exciting week ahead. Thank you.